morning, Svenja. I'm happy that we meet today again, and we will talk about the health of cell membranes, how to keep them healthy and what they are for, why we need to protect them more than maybe 100, 200 years ago. So how did you start into the day today?
Yeah, good morning, Clea. Yeah, it's so nice that we are having our second round of the podcast today. Yeah, my morning was really nice with a walk and some work and also a workout actually. And yeah, so let's start with healthy cell membranes.
Lovely. A quick introduction of you. You are a vet. You have studied veterinarian medicine, but then you switched more to health coach for human beings because you went yourself through a very challenging period in your time where you had to take care of your health. And now you are doing consulting for people who want to know more how they can protect their health or get back into a healthy state after maybe being a bit pulled off. So let's start into why is it important to have healthy cell membranes and how many of these entities do we have in our body?
Yeah, so we have countless cells, more like trillions in this area. So yeah, so the cells are the smallest functional unit within our bodies. You can say it like this. And yeah, the cells are surrounded by cell membranes. And they also have membranes within the cells, for example, as surroundings of the mitochondria or of the nucleus or of other cell organelles. So membranes play an important role in cellular function. Since they transmit substances. So, for example, the cells absorb nutrients through the cell membranes. There are specific carriers. These are proteins which are embedded in the cell membrane. Also, they excrete substances, for example, waste materials through the cell membrane. And also the cell membrane is important for fluid balance. So there are transport channels called aquaporins that transmit water molecules like inside and out from the cell. And additionally, the cell membrane is important as for signaling. So there are receptor molecules on the surface of the cell membranes. And through these receptors, the cell can react to, for example, hormones or cytokines and other substances that are important for cell-cell signaling or for immune signaling and many other processes, or also like neurotransmitters. They are also recognized via receptors on the cell membranes. So there are many, many different examples for this.
So they are highly complex structures, and in order to function properly, they need special nutrients to be healthy and stay healthy. So what would you say are some of the most important ones? And can you also explain a little bit, go more into detail, how these cell membranes are built so that the people who are listening and watching us get a bigger understanding of the importance of a healthy cell membrane?
Yeah, so the cell membranes consist of all types of macronutrients, actually. So it's not just fatty acids. And this, I find this really interesting. So 50% basically of the material of the cell membranes are actually proteins. And these are for transporting substances and for signaling, for example. And then there are 40% of fats. These are the phospholipids. This is the basic structure or basic molecule for the structure of the cell membrane, and cholesterol, and 10% carbohydrates. And these carbohydrates, they are on the cell surface as receptors. And so just as a basic understanding. And what you meant with the structure of the cell membrane, it's a phospholipid doppel layer. Fluid mosaic model is also something that some people maybe remember from biology in school. And yeah, and this means that these phospholipids, they build a doppel layer. And this is possible because these phospholipids, they have a hydrophil part. This is like the head of this molecule, and they have a lipophilic part. And these are like two fatty acids. And they are bound via a phosphate group to the hydrophil head group of this phospholipid molecule. So you can just imagine it's a head which loves water, and two fatty acids which love fats as they are fatty acids. And this leads to this double layer structure. So the fatty acids of two phospholipid molecules are are like, how do you say it? Like they are like connected to each other. They are within the center of the cell membrane, and the head groups which love water are directed to the outside of the cell, where you have the extracellular fluid, and also to the inside of the cell. There you have the water, which is within the cell.
So everywhere where we have water, there are the parts of the cell membrane
Yes.
that like water, that they are attracted to water, and the fatty loving molecules parts are inside of the membrane. They don't come in contact with the water directly.
Yes. Right.
Okay, great. I'm getting slowly back into this picture. I mean, I learned all stuff, but as a midwife, you had other focus. Great. So what can we do in terms of nourishment to supplement this properly? Because normally we would say that we get everything through our food that we drink and through good water, but the situation nowadays is a bit different, I suppose, in comparison to what we had like 100, 200 years ago. So how can we take care of the health of our cell membranes when we talk about food?
Yeah, this is such an important question. And this is really like the basis of our health, so getting the cell membranes healthy so that the cells are functioning well. So we need, of course, protein, enough high quality protein to have the amino acids that the body needs to build these like 50% of proteins that are within the cell membrane. And another important topic are the lipids. So healthy fats are also a big foundation for the cell membranes. And so one part are the saturated fats and the unsaturated fats. And this term with unsaturated, this means that they have like a double chain within their structure. And this double chain, or the double bond, not chain, the double bond between two carbon atoms, and this leads to a change in the structure. So it's not a straight structure like the saturated fats. It's getting a curve
edge,
within
right?
the structure.
Yeah.
And we can also show a picture so that you can really understand better what we are talking about. So the unsaturated fats, they have a curve in the structure. And when you are having more unsaturated fats within the cell membrane, this allows the phospholipid molecules to be more fluid, to move around. And this allows, for example, also the proteins that are within the cell membrane to perform better, to absorb more nutrients. In comparison, if you're having more saturated fats that are straight in their structure, they can be closely together within the membrane, and this leads to a more firm or tight cell membrane. And this is also, it's more difficult, for example, to have normal absorption of micronutrients through a membrane that has too much saturated fats. And
we need both of them in a good
Yes.
balance, right? In order to that the structure of the cell membrane is not too fuzzy and just floating around, but also not too strict and rigid that it doesn't have enough movement and not enough capacity.
Yes, we need both, and not only because of this fluid property, but also because the unsaturated fats, they are more prone to oxidation. So
Okay. So
the
what does
double
that
bonds,
exactly mean?
the
No, the oxidation, I mean.
I wanted to explain that the double bonds can be attacked by oxygen or by oxidative stress, so free radicals. And this destroys the normal structure of these fatty acids, so of the unsaturated fatty acids. And they are they can be attacked from oxidative stress or from oxygen. And this causes a loss of their normal function. And if you are having an oxidized cell membrane, this can cause health problems in the end. So the membrane is not healthy anymore. And the saturated fats, in comparison, they can't oxidize. So if you are having too many unsaturated fats and too much oxidative stress, this leads to health problems because the cell membrane gets oxidized. And so the saturated fats are also a protection against this lipid peroxidation process in the end.
What would be a good balance between saturated and unsaturated fats?
So there are like amounts of, for example, a percentage, which could be good. We can add this in the caption of the video, what exact numbers there are. But for example, I know a little bit more about the numbers from omega-3, for example. And there is an amount of that you should have greater than 9% of omega-3. This is a fatty acid index in the cell membrane. And so this would be a healthy amount. But the total amount of, I'm not sure about the total amount of unsaturated versus saturated fats.
Okay, we can look this up. Yeah, I mean, this is already a very huge topic that we are opening here.
But we can add this information for sure.
Yeah. What kind of, when we look at our food and the fats that we eat, what fats do you recommend, and which one should we better avoid, and which ones we found a lot in the normal food that has been pre-produced?
So what I recommend as healthy sources of fat are, on the one hand, healthy saturated fats, such as, for example, grass-fed butter or ghee, which is also produced via butter. It's just pure fat, basically. Also, coconut oil is a good source. And ghee and coconut oil are also good for heating. So if you're like cooking or frying something, these are fats that you could use because they are saturated and they can't oxidize. And as sources of unsaturated fats, good sources are, for example, olive oil, high quality olive oil, especially from young olives because it has more polyphenols, which are potent antioxidants. So they protect the cell membrane. And also something good would be avocado oil, for example, or the German word for Leinöl. I think it is. We can add this maybe.
We have to, I have also to look up.
I'm not quite sure what the correct word for this is. But this is also a good source because it has this alpha-linolenic acid, which is an omega-3 fatty acid. And this is very healthy. Important to notice is that just adding like plant-derived omega-3 products with this alpha-linolenic acid, this is not enough to get an omega-3 into the body because the body can use alpha-linolenic acid to produce EPH and DHA. These are the most important omega-3 fatty acids, but the amounts aren't high enough. So the body can just produce a small amount of these from alpha-linolenic acid, from linen oil or line oil.
I will blend it in.
Yeah, but it's not high enough, or it's not enough to really cover the needs that the body has. So we also need high quality fish oil, or if you're a vegan, you can use algae oil.
For that. What did people eat in the past? I suppose they didn't have that much deficiency like we have today. Is that right?
Yes. So I also heard a case from a patient who he did not supplement omega-3. He just ate a diet based of grass-fed beef and vegetables, and it was last year. So, and this patient reached an ideal omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, so a ratio of 1:1 from these two types of unsaturated fatty acids. And normally, if you are testing people, so if you're testing the fatty acid relation in the cell membranes of people nowadays, you normally find amounts of 15:1, so omega-6 to omega-3, so way too much omega-6 within the cell membranes in comparison to omega-3, or even higher. So I even heard from people who had like 70:1 or something like this. Wow. From omega-6 to omega-3. And what would be healthy is about like 5 or 4 or 1 to 1 even.
Okay, so you are talking about at the moment of the amount of omega-3 and omega-6 in the cell membrane. So what you recommend is we test what is in the cell membrane and not what is freely floating in the blood. That's right?
Yes, so this is also very important what you're saying, because if would just test the fatty acids which are present in the blood at this moment, this just reflects what you have eaten. So it's not a reflection of what is actually present in your cell membranes. And if you're analyzing the cell membranes, you can see your fatty acid consumption for the last 2 to 3 months, for example. So it's like for a longer period. And so I would also recommend, if you are before starting an omega-3 product, to test, so that you are seeing what's your baseline with your nutrition at the moment. And then you are starting to do changes, and then you are retesting after, for example, 2 to 3 months, because this is the time that it needs to exchange the blood cells. And
wow, okay. And this test can be done, you mentioned in another podcast, it can be done with dry blood samples, so it's even possible to send to the laboratory.
So if someone is interested in doing such a test, you can just connect to us. We can help you with this. And it's just a simple dry blood test that you can do at home. So it needs just some drops of blood from the finger, and then you can send it to the laboratory, and then you're getting some weeks later really complex analysis of all the fatty acids that are present, and also not just omega-6 or omega-3, but also many more fatty acids, also the saturated fats. And in this report, you can also see which amount really is, if you're in the good range or if you are too high. For example, with inflammation in the body, this is also connected to the fat composition you are having in the cell membrane. And this is all shown in this report, and I can look it up for the exact numbers that we are talking about earlier. How much fatty acids are good, for example.
Okay, so this is also why we recommend connecting with you, because you have such a great knowledge now about what is important for ourselves, because you yourself went through a time when it was challenging health-wise and you educated yourself on it. So that's really great. If I need to supplement omega-3, where do I find good omega components? Because I suppose it's with all of the supplements, you need the right ones that can be really metabolized by the body and not just throw anything in that you can get in the next drugstore.
Yeah. So this is also really important, because if you are using a bad quality omega-3 supplement, you're doing more harm than good, basically. Because as we mentioned earlier, that omega-3 is a polyunsaturated fat. It is really prone to oxidation. So, if the oil is not protected via antioxidants, it can really oxidize already within the bottle or in the capsule. And you are then intaking oxidized oil, which is harmful for the health. Yeah. So it's not good
doing
anymore.
The opposite what it should do, right?
Yes, it's
doing the opposite what it should do.
Yes. So it's like causing more inflammation within the body and not being a good component for the cell membranes and decreasing inflammation. So this is actually why we need the good balance of omega-3 to omega-6, because if you're having too much omega-6 within the body, it causes pro-inflammatory, the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. And omega-3 causes the production of anti-inflammatory cytokines. And so we need, of course, both for a healthy immune response or inflammatory reaction, but it needs to be balanced and not an overload with omega-6, which in the end causes more inflammation in the body. And and coming back to the omega-3 supplements. So we need protection against oxidization, and this can be done via like antioxidants, which are added to the product. And these can be, for example, polyphenols from olive oil, or vitamin E, or carotenoids, for example. And another thing that is important is that it contains high enough dosages of DHA and EPH. And so you can look this up on the label, and for the right dosage of omega-3. I mean, for example, we can also add this in the caption, because it's like dependent on the body weight. But in general, what I also would recommend really to test just to see where you are, because if you are having a good diet and you are eating, for example, grass-fed beef or salmon or something like this on a regular basis, and you're not eating a lot of inflammatory fats and processed foods, you might have already a quite good relation of these fatty acids, and you maybe don't need like the full dosage, which is recommended on some of the oils. So it's good to test.
And are there any other fats that we need that are important for us?
Yeah, so in general, of course, we need saturated and unsaturated fats. And I mean, we don't have a lack of omega-6. We need it from the diet, but we don't have a lack of it, so we are getting enough. And with the saturated fats, such as like stearine or palmitic acid, which are these are also present in the diet in high enough amounts, probably for most people too high, so it's good to lower them. And then there is another saturated fatty acid, which is currently researched a lot, and this is called a fatty. So the company which is researching is called fatty 15, and the fatty acid is called C15. And C15 means it has 15 carbon atoms in the structure. This means it's an odd chain fatty acid. This means the number is uneven. And so most other saturated fatty acids have an even number of carbon atoms in their structure. And this is really something exceptional, that it's found within the body, but it has just 15 carbon atoms. So
how did people find out about that?
So yeah, this is also really a really interesting story. So it was found in dolphins, actually. And there was a veterinary researcher which researched dolphins that were like, they belong to the Navy, and they are living in a safe environment. They getting additional fish and something like this, and they are getting more than twice as old as dolphins in nature. And they found that in these dolphin populations, there were animals that developed diseases such as Alzheimer's or metabolic syndrome, so diseases that are like common also in elderly people, that are connected with aging and inflammation and things like this. But there were also dolphins that did not develop these diseases. And they tried to find out what was the difference between these animals. And a major difference they found was the amount of this fatty acid in the cell membranes of the dolphins. And the ones that stayed healthy, also in like old age, they had high amounts of C15 within their cell membranes. And this was caused because these dolphins liked eating specific types of fish, which the other ones did not eat. And so these fish had the highest amounts of this fatty acid. And since they discovered C15, there were also different studies in humans. And also it is known that people living in the blue zones, so the blue zones are areas in the world where the people are getting oldest, they have high amounts of this fatty acid in the cell membrane. So high amounts means it's higher than, for example, 0.2% of the cell membranes, for example, or 0.4% of the cell membranes in this percentage, just to give a number. Yeah, so these fatty acids seems to be very important for human health and to protect the cell membranes against oxidation. So it stabilizes the cell membranes. It makes it
Where do I get this from?
Yeah, so it can be derived, for example, from full-fat milk products, also from full-spectrum fish oil in some amounts, and from, probably these types of fish that the dolphins were eating. So several types of fish species. I don't know which species exactly these are, but we are adding this in the caption. And so these full-fat animal products, basically. And also the company Fatty 15, it has a supplement
That is
for Fatty 15. We can also link this.
So what you generally recommend also is a diet that includes everything and that is not excluding certain products, because we basically need from different sources, different products and different components. And when we get and cut out certain types of food, then we might get much easier into a deficiency than if we eat everything. Is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, it is important to really think about, okay, how am I getting enough amount of high quality protein and fats, for example, as these are the main building blocks of the body. So, I mean, carbs are also important to a certain amount, but the most important thing to build the body are proteins and healthy fats. And excluding, for example, high quality animal products is, in my opinion, not really healthy because it leads finally to a deficiency. And yeah, so I mean, this is also a different, yeah, a really complex topic. And also it's really personal for many people. And so it's difficult to really say, yeah, this is unhealthy and you should do this. Everybody decides on their own. But just from a biological standpoint, I really believe that eating high quality animal products, especially high quality meat or fish, is really important for health in the long term.
Way to protect your body. Great. So can you wrap up in 2 to 3 sentences saturated, unsaturated fats, omega-3, omega-6, and C15 to give us a quick summary of what we have talked today?
Yeah, sure. So in general, the body needs all of these kinds. So it needs saturated fats, it needs unsaturated fats, it needs omega-6, omega-3. There needs to be a balance. And yeah, balance comes from a healthy diet with not non-processed food. So high quality natural foods with different types of veggies, with different types of healthy meat, grass-fed beef, for example, or wild-caught salmon. These are great examples. And yeah, and also incorporating healthy fats, such as, for example, coconut oil or ghee or olive oil. Or I think the word is linseed oil that we were missing.
That's what it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, these types of foods are good, and also limiting the harmful pro-inflammatory components, which are, for example, found in processed foods or in fried foods with trans fats, and like avoiding these types of foods. You are also doing a lot for your health.
Yeah. And of course, it makes a difference if you eat French fries once a month or every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I even heard that it takes up to 2 years to get rid of the unhealthy fats you're getting from French fries. So yeah, it is not like you're eating some weeks healthy fats and then your salmon brains are healthy. It can take a while. So it can take really years until you really renew everything.
Great.
Yeah.
Svenja, thank you so much. I think you are really a source of great knowledge that goes above often normal medical knowledge. And I'd like to tell you that next week we will talk about hexagonal structured water, why it is important and why we need it in our body, why we actually consist of structured water. And looking forward then to see you back again. Thank you so much, Svenja, for your great input. And we meet next week with a super interesting other health topic.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. It's a lot of fun, and it makes me really happy to share knowledge. And to all the listeners, please leave us a comment if you're having more questions or if you're having like topics that you want to hear about. Yeah, so we are happy to record another episode.
Yes, so we are determined for one podcast per week, one in English, one in German. So we are ready to go. Okay. See you then, Svenja. Thank you so much.
See you.